Continue following that breaking news in Tavares, the propane plant explosion. Thankfully, no one is dead, but there are some people who've been badly hurt. And there's still no word on how the explosions started. Kala Rama from our sister station in Orlando is joining us live now this morning. And Kala, we know that in fact, the fire chief, it appears, just briefed the news media about this just tremendous explosion that happened last night. What can you tell us about the latest information?
Well, right now there are 7 people still in the hospital. We've been told that there are either 3 or 4 in critical condition with severe burns. At this time, no deaths have been reported despite the enormity of that explosion. You've seen it from the chopper there, and you could see just how big it was. People were able to see flames and smoke billowing into the air from at least a mile away. People say that they heard the blast from at least 10 miles away. Right now, they tell us that the fire is partially contained. However, employees' cars that were left there on site at the Blue Rhino plant are starting to melt.
Wow. The witnesses you've talked with, how do they describe the explosions and the impact and the heat from the flames?
They described it as intense. One of the workers that I talked to, it was their first day on the job. He said that he felt like those tanks were like missiles. Literally, he said he was 100 yards away. That's about a football field length away from that blast. Amazingly, he was not hurt. He started running. He said his ears were ringing from the sound of the blast. His eyes were blurry. They actually stung from the smoke and flames. He said one after another. It was consecutive, boom after boom, where these tanks were being blown up because of the heat of the other tanks. At the time of this blast, officials from Blue Rhino tell me that there were 53,000 20-pound tanks inside the facility.
Kala, let me ask you to hold on a second. If we can put the audio full here, you can actually hear the explosions ring out.
Kala, can you, for those of our viewers who are not familiar with this particular area, since it is in Central Florida, are there a lot of homes in this area, or is it pretty much industrial?
No, there are homes in the area. However, there are several shops in plants. That plant in that area was one of the only ones surrounded by some other trailers. Other facilities that actually house propane tanks, I'm told, as well. There are homes in a mile radius. In fact, those homes were all evacuated and just recently into their home because it was contained. But Tavares is a residential area.
We understand that you're going to be let down into the region in just a little bit. Does it seem that there's still some smoldering going on?
There is smoldering. If you can see it just beyond my shoulder, that's a controlled burn. However, further down, they've kept us quite far away for now, but further down, just about a half from where I am, that is where the plant is, and they say that those cars are still melting and smoke is still billowing as there was so many explosions there overnight that they're trying to control. The fire crews will remain there dousing the entire building, the entire property with water to try and control this. They still have a lot of work, and clearly they have a lot of work to figure out a cause still.
You're about 60 miles down 441 from Orlando. Can those could that smoke and flames be seen that far away?
Not that I know of, especially not at this time. In the middle of the night when it first happened, maybe this was big, but I don't know if it can be seen from 60 miles away. However, fire crews here say in their time doing this for the last 20 years, they've never seen anything like this.
Well, the reason I asked that question, and thank you, Kala Rama, very much, is because it looked as if the wind was blowing, and that wind would have certainly carried a lot of that smoke over toward the Orlando area, looking at the way that it was blowing in the pictures that we've seen.
You know, it almost looks like it snowed there, and for those who are unfamiliar with how firefighters fight these kinds of fires, they'll use water, as Kala mentioned, but also it appears they use some kind of foam to help put this out as quickly as possible, since it does look kind of white blanketed there. It's not necessarily ash, but foam used by the firefighters.